Am I the asshole? Customer tries buying large amount of gift cards. I refuse for likely being an advanced fee scam. End up losing the job. Last year, I worked at a small budget grocery store. A guy wanted 3 $500 prepaid Visa gift cards. I immediately say, hold on, are you sure this isn't an advanced fee scam? And he says, no, they are for my personal use. That is the response that phone scammers tell people to say if they're asked about why they're buying large denominations of cards. There were 2 tills at this store, mine and the manager's. For some reason, the manager wasn't allowed to sell that amount of gift cards on their own terminal. Possibly an anti-theft measure? But that meant that the $1,500 of Visa gift cards had to be rung up on my terminal. But I didn't feel good about this, so I refused. So I asked the customer what they were for if it wasn't a scam. If he gives me an alternate reason like, my 3 kids are all getting PS5s, I would have done it, but he refuses to clarify and apparently can't even make up a lie. When I refuse to budge, the man leaves. I presume to talk to the scammer outside on his phone. We call up the head manager and she says, well, we warned him and that's all we can do. I say that we could do a little more and refuse to participate in this folder roll. Let him go somewhere else for his criminal activity. The manager on the floor says that I have to do it because she can't do it on hers, and she literally tries to push me out of the way of my terminal to do it, and I stand my ground as she tries to hip push me, in what must have been a rather pathetic display. She finally says, you can do this or you can leave. So I left. After I cooled down a bit and got lunch, I called the head manager again and asked her, should I even come in tomorrow? It is hard to find people in December, so I am willing to stay on. We can gamble on this not happening again. And she decides that, nah, let's just make a clean break. I say, possibly interrupting her as she waffles, alright then, lose this number. And I hang up on her. It sucks that this guy got taken for a ride, but it also sucks that I basically threw the job away for no gain and he still got taken for a ride. It was a minimum wage job during the pandemic. I wasn't attached to it or anything. A young coworker at my other job didn't understand why I did it. They don't pay me enough to be a hero. My response was, no, they don't pay me enough to be a villain. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I wonder if I should have just sold the guy the gift cards instead of refusing to, based on an assumption. I was almost certain that he was tangled up in this, but I didn't really help him by refusing. Even if he went somewhere else, what have I solved by refusing to do it? Now in the comments, you're the asshole. He didn't tell you what specifically they were for, because he is a private citizen and it is none of your business. Your manager told you to do it. You don't have to do anything you don't want, but you should expect to lose your job. And ethically, your manager was right. You can warn this guy, but you can't live his life for him, and that's not a good reason to refuse service. The only thing I'll say, not to either of your benefits, you could do a better job of warning them. Actually explain the scam and point them to resources, but if they want to buy 3 gift cards, let them. The problem is you think so little of the customer. I used to be a cashier. We were trained to watch out for things like this, especially when it's a senior citizen doing this, since gift cards are pretty much non-refundable and are hard to track. How would you feel if your elderly parent who lives on Social Security got taken for everything they had? Ever heard about a Prince from Overseas scam? I think that's what the OP was thinking when this happened. Yeah, I'm confused by the you're the asshole votes because in my area, it was illegal to sell so much money on a gift card at one time to protect people from scammers. I guess that doesn't stop people from buying them at different stores, but hopefully jumping through hoops helps people realize what they're doing might be sketchy. Quote, my response, no, they don't pay me enough to be a villain. And then everyone clapped? Right? And can we talk about how OP's manager tried to get them to move, but they forcefully blocked her and said her attempt was a pathetic display? God, this person sounds full of themselves. No wonder they got fired. You are not the manager, OP. You're the asshole. Not everyone who buys mass gift cards do it for a scam, and no one's obligated to tell you why they're doing it. Even if it's illegal, you can't get in legal trouble for selling them. It is literally your job. I once bought 15 gift cards for Teacher Appreciation Week. Y'all treat people like criminals over something that is none of your business. Explain gift card scams, and if they say no, then ring them up and move on. I mean, honestly, you're the arsehole. Edit to add, OP is not an arsehole for trying to protect the customer. OP is an arsehole for deciding the customer's answer wasn't good enough. As if scams are the only reason gift cards are purchased. Personal use is an extremely common term, and it does not mean that it was for a scam. It means that it's none of your business. Our next post is titled, Am I the Arsehole for telling my husband to rehome his cat? So me and my husband have been living together for 1 year. When we moved in together, I brought my 3-year-old American bully, while he brought his 18-year-old cat. We tried to introduce them to one another by initially separating them, then by introducing them to each other's smells, followed by letting them see each other whilst at a safe distance. They appeared to get along, but after a day, the cat began making its dislike for the dog very clear. I tried describing what this entailed, but my previous post got removed due to its going over the character limit. In response to this, we've taken to keeping the dog and cat separated by gates when there is no one around to supervise them. When we're around, we splash them with a small amount of water if the cat begins to fight with the dog. Which worked for a while, until recently when the cat became relentless in its efforts to go after the dog, even after being splashed with water. As such, we took the cat to our local vet to assess it for any issues. The vet told us that he's perfectly healthy. Another issue that we have to consider is that I'm pregnant. While I'm not saying the cat would definitely be nasty towards my baby, the way it's acted towards my dog has caused me to worry. I brought up the idea of taking the cat to a cat sanctuary where it would hopefully be able to find a new home, in a relaxing environment and without fear of being euthanized, since we can't take it to any family members, since his family is refusing to have the cat, and my family is in the UK. We argued virtually non-stop about this for days, until my husband finally agreed to take his cat to said cat sanctuary. However, he is still pretty upset with me. I feel really bad for my husband, however I do feel like it was the right decision, not only for the dog, but for our future baby. Am I the arsehole? Now in the comments, absolutely you're the arsehole. It's an 18-year-old cat. Not only is it incredibly unlikely to find a new home, but think about how stressful that would be for the poor thing. Please go back and save his cat. I'd honestly never forgive you if I was in his shoes. I honestly would have left the marriage over this. Not even sorry. She should know how much that cat means to him, with her selfish self. Exactly. Anyone so heartless that they think that a cat with probably less than a year to live should be rehomed isn't somebody that should be trusted with love. I feel so awful for both the cat and the husband. I wouldn't have been able to say okay to giving up my best friend just because my new husband wants me to. So this has me wondering how bad she browbeat him into making such a decision. Rehoming an 18-year-old kitty isn't a thought normal people with feelings have. This post broke my heart to pieces. I don't even know how he must feel to send off such an old cat. I didn't live with my partner for 8 years because he was allergic to my elderly cat, and when that cat finally died at 21 years old, my partner was there for that too. Sure, he was swollen and blotchy as he held me, but we were both crying anyway. Rehoming at 18? That's no way to treat a cat. You're the arsehole. Funny how you only seem to be concerned about your dog and what you want. Maybe you should give up your dog too, for the baby's sake. Yeah, that's the lamest part of the whole post. Fear for the baby. Bullshit. And she just admitted her dog was being aggressive too. Also, it's a frickin' pit bull, which she admits fights back the cat aggressively. And she's worried about the cat harming the kid. I got news for ya. I'd rather a kid go 1v1 versus a cat than a pit bull. You're the arsehole. The cat is 18 years old. Who would want to adopt an 18-year-old cat with aggressive tendencies? Not to mention how hard it would be on the cat after living with someone for 18 years, then being rehomed. How about rehoming the dog? No? You don't want to give up the poor dog? Didn't think so, as that would be just as bad. Sorry, but it's on you to make it work and keep them separated. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for making all the women in my family leave after they all showed up to my wedding wearing white? I, male 33, have a large family. Mostly aunts and female cousins aside from mum, stepmom, stepsister, and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They've formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they would tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be a part of the family, or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then after a few months of teasing, they'd announce that they finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing too, which is crazy, as my dad says. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even with a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job, and I discovered they've been doing it on Facebook. I had them apologize one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable to be a part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologize, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the unit unless they apologize, including my mom, everyone immediately apologized and brought gifts for my wife. First of them was my stepmom and sister-in-law. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the women in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white, and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife reacts. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any of them showed up in white, I'd have them kicked out, including my mom. They said this wasn't true, and they would never do such a thing. But they showed up at my wedding one by one, wearing white dresses, and each and every one of them was told to leave after they tried giving excuses, by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior women of the unit, who were mum and aunts, also showed up in white but refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and mum was pissed, telling me to step aside. But I didn't let her in. I had her leave, while the men in the family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me on social media later, saying I excluded all of the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure she couldn't handle another woman's presence at her wedding. I had an argument with them, and Mum berated me, saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. Mum said that I took it too far by kicking them out because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those bridezillas, and they were going to get changed as soon as the prank was over. But I ruined my own and entire wedding by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said that I had to bring my wife and apologize. I haven't seen them a lot in 2 weeks, and they've excluded me from everything. Was I the asshole for how I handled this? And I just want to explain that A, this has been happening for years. The men in the family are split on this behavior. Some of them encourage it, like my uncle and cousin's husband. One is now an ex, and some are against it, like me and my dad and brother. B, the women claim that there is nothing hurtful in what they do because they claimed they are just looking out for us men, and that their goal ultimately is to make sure the women who enter the family are decent. C, my dad always ends up arguing with my mum and grandmother since they are the ones who started this whole thing with their behavior and attitude towards other women. And D, I'm not sure if I should mention this, but my male cousin, who's a middle schooler, said that he'd make sure to leave the country before even meeting any women because of this, and it made me chuckle. Also, the dresses they showed up in were simple white dresses. Nothing over the top, but still were white dresses. I realized they went ahead with their plans, even after I stated what I would do in that case. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Your family is toxic, and I am so sad for your wife that they would do that, but also so happy for her that she has a husband who will support her and have her back. I'm sorry your family tried to hijack your wedding for a power play, but you did the right thing, and your marriage will be stronger because of it. Can you imagine how the wife's family thought about all of this? If I were the mother of OP's wife, I would be really worried about my daughter being around those women. Good on OP for breaking the cycle, not the arsehole. I would have pulled my daughter aside and asked her if she was 100% sure about marrying into this family, and told her that it's not too late to back out. OP, you sound like a good guy, but your family is completely toxic. What your family pulled is sick. If I were the bride's family and saw this level of bullying, I'd be persuading the bride that she can do a lot better. The groom literally chose to exclude half of his family from his wedding rather than allow them to upset her. The family may be toxic, but it sounds like she's still done pretty well. It's definitely deranged. Hazing isn't cute. Getting hazed doesn't prove that someone is worthy, it's just a mean girls club. These women were angry that they didn't get the chance to haze OP's fiancé, so they decided to band together and ruin the wedding. It's not a prank. It's just vicious and cruel. They've proven that they'll stop at nothing to be cruel to OP's wife, simply because they enjoy being cruel and don't want to miss the opportunity. Then they told lies about why they weren't allowed to be at the wedding. If it were me fielding those women on my wedding day, each one of those white dresses would have been considered a self-written ticket right out of my life. Their continued harassment and lying are just proof that they are bad people. Not the arsehole. This level of hazing has crossed the line to emotional abuse and blackmail, and that is probably understating it. It's very good you stood up for your spouse. You handled it well, but emotional blackmailers use family to pressure the victims into compliance with the abuse. Most often when standing up to familial emotional blackmailers, it ends with forced no contact for non-compliance. No contact is healthier, but it can be hard to be shunned from the family. Am I the arsehole for demanding that my son's stepdad pay for the Xbox he threw in the pool? So I'm 46, a father of a 16-year-old named Adam. His mother and I have been separated since he was 6. Adam is always happy to spend time at my place as part of the custody agreement. He hates his stepdad, who's in his 30s, and calls him controlling. He puts strict rules upon Adam and punishes him for long periods of time over small mistakes. He doesn't give him allowances like I do, or let his mum give him any money, so Adam started working to be able to buy the stuff that he wants. Adam always wanted to buy an Xbox, but couldn't afford the full price, so I told him whatever he saved, I was willing to pay double, and he was able to buy a new Xbox for the first time weeks ago. I got an angry phone call from his stepdad asking why the hell I bought Adam an Xbox, knowing it's not allowed at his house. First of all, I told him that Adam paid for the Xbox with his hard-earned money, and second of all, that's his mum's house, so he can't dictate what is and isn't allowed. He went on about how the Xbox is a distraction tool from his school and chores, but I assured him that Adam is responsible with time and can manage and balance just fine. He suggested I keep the Xbox in my house and Adam can come over to play, but I said that's not up to me. Clearly I got him pissed, so he warned me about the consequences of seeing Adam playing with that Xbox and ignoring his duties. I hung up immediately. 2 days later, Adam called and was freaking out, saying his stepdad had a rage fit and threw his Xbox in the pool as a punishment for Adam for playing with it instead of mowing the lawn. I was in dismay. I went over to his mum's house to see what was going on, but I didn't find her. I found Adam crying and I confronted his stepdad, and he said that he had to do this because Adam was being neglectful with his chores, and said this was the result of built-up resentment because of Adam's continuous lack of responsibility. I argued that even if he thought Adam was being irresponsible with his playing time, throwing the Xbox in the pool was unhinged of him because he could have hidden it for all I know. He yelled that he gets to decide what punishment fits and went on about how he was just trying to help Adam become a responsible young man. I was tired of this, so I told Adam to pack his stuff up to go to my place. His stepdad firmly said that he won't allow it and that I was preventing him from performing his duties as a father and an authority figure, but I told him that he needed to pay for a new Xbox. He argued that I was delusional to expect him to pay for something he doesn't want in his house in the first place, but I said that was enough and then left. Adam's mother came and argued with me, saying her husband made a mistake, but I shouldn't have taken Adam out of the house. I asked if she's happy with how his stepdad is treating him, and she said that's tough love, because he wouldn't have done this if he didn't care. I blatantly said that her husband was just being an overbearing, power-tripping control freak, and told her Adam is staying with me and we're expecting a new Xbox. She told the family I was stopping her from seeing Adam. And edit, I've always wanted Adam to stay with me, seeing as he doesn't agree with his stepdad on a lot of things. But the reason for being hesitant about having him most of the time, if not all, is because of two things, which are the fact that I travel for work, and also because of the health problems I struggled with in the past couple of years, although Adam is responsible enough to do so many things on his own. His stepdad already apologized on the phone, but I insisted on getting this resolved instead of ignoring what happened. Now in the comments, that man is abusive. Get the custody agreement changed, and take your ex's husband to small claims if he doesn't pay up. I would also go to the police and report the damages done to the Xbox so that you have a paper trail. Protect your son, not the asshole. This, do all of it. I would add just one more thing. When you approach the police, tell them you're looking for some advice on how to proceed with something. Say, I know there's a difference between what people expect and how things actually work. I'm looking for the best way to get from A to B. That little statement will set you up for the best chance of success with them. Good luck. Not the asshole. Stepdad is abusing Adam. If Adam wants to live with OP, he is old enough to decide that. Your ex is not putting his best interests first. What she calls tough love is actually abuse. And OP replies, I want him to come live with me, but his mother is rejecting the idea and is trying to guilt him into staying with her. She even threatened me for allegedly committing paternal alienation, even though I'm not. I'm just making sure Adam has a good and a stable home to live in. He's 16, clearly old enough to speak on his own behalf. Speak to your attorney and maybe get your son into therapy. A neutral third party can identify and bolster the very clear verbal abuse that your son is living with at his mother's house. Yes, children need chores and must be taught how to adult. Throwing the Xbox into the pool doesn't exactly accomplish that, not the asshole. And our next story is titled, Am I the asshole for putting a camera in my bedroom? So I, 22 male, live in an apartment with my roommate, 22 male. We are both attending college part-time and get along well with one another. The lease is under my name only. My roommate is not planning on living in the apartment after college. I do work night shifts 3 days a week. My hours are 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. He sometimes has his girlfriend stay overnight, which is no problem, as my boyfriend will stay when he visits. When I come home from work, I've been noticing my bed has been a mess, and I've found clothing that did not belong to me in the sheets. I am awful with confronting people, but I know that it's not my boyfriend, as he lets me know beforehand when he is staying over. I ordered a camera and placed it in a spot where it cannot be seen. I went to work, and the camera app notified me that there was motion in the room. I turned the camera on and saw my roommate and his girlfriend on my bed. I was mortified and stopped watching the video. My boyfriend came over in the morning and I showed him the video of my roommate and girlfriend on my bed. My boyfriend texts the video to my roommate and he texts back that he wants to talk to me when he gets home. Roommate and I talk about the situation and I tell him that it's disturbing that he and his girlfriend are using my bed. Roommate's defense is that my bed is more comfortable than his. His girlfriend comes over in the evening and she starts attacking me for putting a camera in the apartment. Am I the asshole for putting a camera in my bedroom? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I feel I might be the asshole because I put a camera in my bedroom without letting my roommate know. Roommate's girlfriend is calling me a creep, and there is a lot of tension between roommate and I. Now in the comments, huge not the asshole. They are violating your space in a major way. Just going into your room would be bad enough, but banging on your bed? That's indefensible and gross. And what's with the excuse that OP's bed is more comfortable than roommate's bed? So what? It's not his bed. He can buy a new mattress if it's really that bad. OP is lucky that this situation has an end date in sight. Not the asshole in this bizarre issue. Also, who the F comes over and willingly sleeps in someone else's bed? I was suspicious of the last time my significant other washed his sheets when he lived alone. Forget about the roommate. Your roommate and the girlfriend lost the moral high ground about being spied on when they started playing Goldilocks, but replaced locks with the F word in your bed. Not the asshole. Hippity hoppity, I have sex on your property. Not the asshole. You have a camera in your space. If they are being caught on your camera in your space where they should not be, then that is on them. Who gives a crap if your bed is more comfortable? It is not theirs. They are disgusting. Just request the property manager to change your doorknob with a deadbolt lock. If they don't acquiesce with your request, then do it yourself. Not that hard with video tutorials. And our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for making my wife return the $900 necklace that she bought for herself using my money?" My, male 34, wife's, female 30, birthday was a couple of weeks ago. She was very honest and vocal about what she wanted, and it was an SL buckled bracelet. I bought it for her, and it cost me $300 using my own account. We do not purchase each other's gifts using the joint account, and since money is tight, this gift broke my back, but I still wanted her to feel appreciated at her birthday. I gave her the bracelet and she was thrilled. She said she admired it and put it on right away. Later that night, and after the birthday celebration was over, I found out that my wife purchased a $900 necklace using my account. I asked why she bought herself a gift, knowing I already purchased her a gift, and asked why she used my money. She nervously said that she wasn't sure that I was going to get her anything for her birthday, so she planned ahead and bought the necklace. She said that she used my money because, obviously, the gift is supposed to come from me. I was puzzled as she explained her reasons. I was mad as $900 was a lot to spend on a gift. Besides, I already bought her a gift, so this was unnecessary spending process. I told her since I did bring her the gift she wanted, then she needed to return the alternative gift that she bought for herself. She refused and argued that I was being heartless and selfish to make her return her birthday gift. I insisted and told her that I'd do it myself if she kept refusing. She said she'll just return the $300 gift, but I said no, not the $300 gift that I agreed to pay for, and she should return the $900 gift I never agreed to let her have. She returned it after I pressured her and kept sulking, saying I'm a controlling jerk with no regard for her feelings on her birthday. She got her sister involved and she ended up calling me an abusive asshole for making money a priority over my wife's happiness. It's been 2 weeks and she is still cold shouldering me. Now in the comments, not the asshole, but your wife is. I would check my accounts to make sure she hasn't purchased any other gifts. I'd be checking my credit history too, and then she would no longer have access to my personal account. Exactly. OP's wife shouldn't have access to his personal account, just the shared one. OP, you are not the asshole, but your wife is being incredibly self-centered. Not the asshole. This chick literally committed a felony and then twisted the logic to make it seem like you were getting her a gift, also she could manipulate you into making her return her gift that you got her. There is something wrong with this girl, man. I guarantee you this isn't the first time this batshit logic has come into play, and it certainly won't be the last. Not the asshole. She has issues. And OP replies, I don't know. I mean, yes, she did spend so much on a gift, then found out that I bought her a gift, so in my opinion, the only logical thing you were to do is to return her spare gift after she already got what she wanted. She suggested returning the $300 gift instead, but I declined because I was fine spending money on the bracelet, but not the $900 gift. She definitely has issues. She stole from you, and then she gaslit you. Can you see that? Mate, that's not gaslighting. No, it definitely is. To go, I didn't do wrong, you did, is a gaslighting technique. It's anything that makes someone question their own sanity. Doesn't have to be just accusing them of making crap up. That's called reversing victim and offender, not gaslighting. In this situation, gaslighting would be something like trying to make him believe that he told her that she could have both gifts and just doesn't remember. Our next post is titled, Am I the Arsehole? I told a man he was too old to have a toddler. I, 51 female, recently went on a date with a 54 male. I knew he had 2 kids. While we were eating, he tells me their ages, 32 female and 3 male. That's a deal breaker to me. At my age, with grown kids, 25 male and 26 female, the last thing I want to be bothered with is a man with a toddler and all the potential drama. The mum is 30. I went on with the date because I was having fun. When it was over, I had every intention of letting things just fade away. Yes, I can be passive-aggressive. Well, he called me a couple days later wanting to go out again. I tried the whole I'm not ready thing, but he kept trying. Finally, I told him that the fact that he has a toddler is a deal breaker. Too much possible drama, and I am way too old for that. Hint, hint. He told me I was being hypocritical since I was a single mom. I said a single mom of 2 grown kids. He kept repeating himself, and I kept repeating myself. Finally, I told him that having a baby at 51 shows a stunning lack of judgment that I don't need in my world. He was quiet for a minute, told me that was a messed up thing to say, and then he told me that I should have told him that before he paid for my dinner and that it was a cow move, and then hung up. Am I the arsehole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I pretty much told him his judgment sucks. I may be the arsehole for judging him and or being hypocritical. Now in the comments, not the arsehole. How the hell is he gonna raise a toddler when he doesn't understand the word no at his age? Yeah, I'm surprised by the number of you're the arsehole votes here. OP said no multiple times, and he kept pushing her and wanting to argue the point. Most of the you're the arsehole comments are like, you could have been nicer. She tried that. Right? Women don't owe men unending niceness no matter what they do or say. That is not a healthy perspective. Exactly. He gets to push her repeatedly for a second date, call her a hypocrite for not wanting to date someone with a toddler, and argue with her about not wanting to date someone with a toddler. But then she needs to continue to be nice to him? Screw all of that. Might be mean, but I agree with her. That poor child will be lucky if his dad is around to see him graduate high school and college. At a certain point, it becomes irresponsible because you will be leaving a child without your support at a young age. I can't even imagine what good 32-year-old daughter thinks of her dad having a toddler with a woman that is younger than she is. OP's right. That is a lot of drama to sign up for, and she's allowed to say no. They only had one date. She doesn't owe him a second, and tried politely to decline. Even after she said why, he still kept pushing. Sounds like a bullet dodged. For OP, not the arsehole, but that guy on the other hand, not the arsehole. He didn't take your no for an answer, and pushed and pushed. Men who can't take rejection well are immature. And he just had a child with a woman younger than his own adult child. This screams immature, along with maybe some other issues. My friend's father cheated on his wife with a woman younger than his son, left her, married the younger woman, and had a kid with her. He expected people to basically cheer for him like, awesome man, hooking a young hottie. Instead, he was shunned so hard by his friends, family, and most townsfolk, small town mentality, to the point he moved away as they couldn't handle the looks and whispers out grocery shopping or going to the park and such. I usually say whatever floats your boat, nothing wrong with an age gap. That being said, cougars don't do it for me. Biggest age gap I've ever had was 4 years between me and a partner. Another friend of mine, his foster family, we were in high school when he was placed with them, were 40 and 52. They said they started dating when she was in her 30s. I don't see any situation where dating someone younger than your own kids is not creepy. And our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not being in an HOA?" I inherited a house a few years ago after the passing of my grandfather. The timing was perfect, as I had just graduated and it wasn't that far from the area where I wanted to work. Nice, Grandpa, you died just on time. About 2 to 3 years ago, a development company bought a bunch of surrounding property to build a semi-gated community. The fence for the community ends a good few yards away from my property, but isn't closed all the way. Now that people have moved in, I've been getting HOA letters about my fees, my lawn, and my house paint. I tried emailing the HOA president, but they never got back to me. I crashed the last meeting they had and explained that my house wasn't part of the neighborhood and therefore not part of the HOA. The president and board members tried to say that I was because of how close my property is. It isn't, and I have documentation from the development company and the county saying that it isn't. After the meeting, the president emailed back and said that regardless of the particulars, I should still try to conform to the rest of the community because I was bringing property values down. I know that I was very lucky in getting my home, and I don't want to negatively affect others, especially considering the current market. Am I the asshole for not listening to the HOA? Now in the comments, not the asshole. You are not a part of them, and the HOAs are ridiculous. Enjoy your house and continue to break their rules. They have no authority over you. Not the asshole. Keeping your property nice isn't the same as conforming to HOA standards. If you want to be a good neighbor to add value, you likely already do most of these things. Mow your lawn regularly, and make sure your landscaping is cleaned up a few times a year. Clean up the front lawn area if there is anything your granddad left there, and paint the house once a decade. You don't have to follow their rules on how often to mow, what color paint, etc. I would send them a letter that you do not belong to the HOA, and further letters of violations will be considered harassment. Don't join them voluntarily. They sound like idiots and assholes. And make it a certified letter and keep the receipt and any other documentation that show that you've made it clear that you are not part of the HOA and don't consent to their rules or oversight. Not the asshole. They don't get to come in and suddenly demand that you play by new rules that you never agreed to in the first place. You should buy the tackiest, wackiest lawn decorations you can to deck out your lawn with. When they come to complain, double down and add more. I'm talking flocks of pink flamingos, holiday lights that would make Clark Griswold jealous, the whole works. That is your property, and they have no right to dictate what you do with it. Am I the asshole for asking my sister and brother-in-law to pay to clean the urine in my truck? I, 24 female, have a truck, and therefore am everyone's first contact if they need to move anything. I typically have reasons to get out of it, but this time my sister, 27 female, needed help moving. She and her husband have my nephew, 2, and are expecting twins next month, so bought a house about an hour away from their apartment, and they're trying to get settled before the babies are born. I had plans, but pushed them back so I could help them make 2 trips to the new house. My sister was packing things at the apartment and came with us on the second trip to the house. About 20 minutes away from the new house, my sister said we needed to pull over so she could use the bathroom. I let her know how close we were so she could hold it for a little longer. Her husband demanded that I pull into the nearest gas station, but we were about to pass it anyway, so again I said that she could hold it for a bit. Well, she released a full bladder of piss all over the back of my truck. She couldn't get it all cleaned out when we got to the house, so I told her that I want them to cover the rest of the cleanup. My brother-in-law lost it on me and said they wouldn't pay for anything since I wouldn't pull over. My sister is a grown woman that I've known my whole life. She can hold it for 15 minutes. Now I have a truck full of piss and half my family isn't talking to me. Am I the asshole for expecting an adult to be responsible for their own pee? Now in the comments, you're the asshole, you're the asshole, you're the asshole. Any grown adult knows that pregnant women, especially 8 months pregnant with twins, absolutely need to use the bathroom when they say they need to. Wow, I'm absolutely shocked at your idiocy and disregard for your sister. And for the record, I'm usually really understanding on these Am I the Asshole posts, but you've actually gotten me worked up over here. Kudos. Also to add, twins don't always get to full term. Most twins are delivered in month 8, so she could have needed to pee or her water could have broken. Either way, he should have stopped. As a twin who once danced on my mother's bladder, OP, you are 100% the asshole. You're the asshole. Source, 8 months pregnant. When I say we need to stop somewhere, that means we need to stop somewhere. And she's got twins. Know that I'm laughing at you and your stinky urine truck. Dude, you are mansplaining pregnancy. You're the asshole. He's literally saying that he knows more about a pregnant woman's body than the woman, or any woman, herself. She could have just held it. No one wants to wet themselves. Like, do you know how painfully full your bladder has to be for the control function to not work as an adult? Because it's painful when it's that full, and the control really does hit a limit before finally your bladder goes into an involuntary release. Adults have an involuntary release moment too. If a person pees themselves in a truck or publicly, it sure as crap isn't a choice. And holding it for 15 minutes while not 1, but 2 babies are drop-kicking your bladder that has had the space that it can be used already reduced when it's full? That release moment comes a lot faster. Unexposed is titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my seat on a flight due to a person who has a guide dog and is visiting a family member in the hospital due to the fact that I have a dog allergy? I have a severe dog allergy. It can have varying degrees of severity when it comes to my reactions when I'm exposed to dogs. In short, being in a closed environment with a dog is out of the question. Earlier today, I was boarding my flight with my friends, since we're all going on vacation together. As I'm boarding, I find that one of the passengers is boarding with a golden retriever with a guide dog vest on it. I want to make it clear that I'm not questioning whether this was a guide dog or not. This was also a fairly small plane, since the flight would only take around an hour. As I mentioned, I cannot be in a confined space with a dog. I told one of the flight attendants my concerns, since I could have potentially ended up in a hospital if I had to fly with this dog. The flight attendant informed the woman with the dog, who goes into hysterics, saying that she is visiting a sick family member and can't afford to miss her flight. I'm not sure how sick the family member in question was or is. The flight attendant asked if I'd be willing to miss this flight and catch the next one that would be leaving in around 2 hours. I was offered a seat in first class if I was willing to do this. I said, unfortunately, that I wouldn't be able to do this since I had paid for my vacation. Due to the size of the plane, the dog would not be able to go into the hold. The woman started insulting my character, saying that I was heartless for putting my vacation over her sick family member. I got on the plane and sat with my friends. As I did this, a woman in a nearby seat told me that she wanted to inform me that I am the biggest cow that she has ever met. I didn't respond since I didn't want to cause a confrontation. My friends haven't said that I'm in the wrong, but have kept making sarcastic jokes about the situation. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, you're the asshole. 1. Both you and the woman paid for your spot on the flight, so you are no more entitled to your seat than she is to hers. 2. The airline offered you a perfectly reasonable accommodation for the 2-hour delay. 3. Assuming the woman is sincere, her need to be on the flight was greater than yours. And 4. When you have an allergy of that severity, you should be informing the airline. It would be so easy to be nice here and cost you almost nothing. I couldn't imagine if OP had a deathly peanut allergy and didn't inform the airline in advance, and then when they went around to serve, they decided to inform them that nobody can have the peanut packs or a prepared meal with peanuts because of their allergy, when the whole situation could have been avoided if they informed the flight in advance. You're the asshole. You'd have missed a few hours of vacation, whereas that woman's relatives might not have had 2 extra hours to live. You are selfish and an asshole. Yup, I'd give 2 hours of my holiday to anyone who was flying because of a family medical emergency. Give me that first class ticket and a couple of drink vouchers for the airport lounge. My vacation can start with a mojito right now. Honestly, the offer of first class would have sold me. I'd have looked at my friends and be like, see you in a few hours. I'm flying first class, mother truckers. Info. Can you clarify why you refused the first class ticket in the flight that was 2 hours later? Given how your friends are reacting, it seems like they would have been okay waiting, and you don't say anything about missing a connecting flight. And OP replies, at the time, the entire situation was really stressful. If I'm honest, I can't do anything about my allergies, since I could potentially become severely unwell if I'm exposed to dogs in a closed space. So I can't constantly put myself last due to an allergy that I can't control. And back to that question, edit to add, from the extra info you did and didn't give, you're the asshole. It's no wonder you don't want to be identified. I think deep down you know how awful you were. She would have let the airline know that she had a service dog when she booked. She was going for a family emergency. You didn't tell the airline that you had a life-threatening allergy when you booked, as you would have mentioned this if you had. You were going on vacation. You were offered first-class tickets to delay your vacation by 2 hours. And someone else replies to OP, nobody is questioning your dog allergy. The fact that you were focused on this is interesting. It's a situation where 2 people have genuine needs that cannot be met at the same time. The question then becomes, who has priority to have those needs met? The person visiting a sick relative takes precedence over the person going on vacation, especially when you take into account the 2-hour delay. That delay means almost nothing to you and your vacation, but could mean that she's arrived too late to see someone before they died. You're the asshole. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for telling my mum and stepdad the real reason I was upset? I am a teenage girl and was born when my mum was 18. I see my dad like 3 days a year at Christmas. My dad doesn't want me as much as he wants his other kids, but I try not to take it personally. My stepdad, who has been in my life since I've been 5, is really nice to me, but I don't think he would care if I didn't exist. But he makes my mum and little brother, my mum and stepdad's bio kid, so happy, and does a lot for me, and for that, he means everything to me. My mum is pregnant again, and this time I get a little sister. I'm just a little nervous, but my stepdad hasn't said anything about having his first daughter, so I really do appreciate him being sensitive to me, even though I don't think he considers me to be his daughter. My mum is excited for another daughter too, and has been shopping for clothes and been putting together a nursery with me, because I'm really good at art and am painting a mural for my sister. She keeps saying things to me like, I'm so grateful to be able to give all this to the baby that I wasn't able to give you, and that she is blessed that she doesn't have to do it alone, and that she's really excited to see my stepdad be a dad again. I know I'm being selfish, so please don't think low of me because of course I want my mum to be happy, but when she says things like this, I feel like I'm worth less and that I am a burden. And then I feel bad for feeling bad because I want my mum to have a good life, and she at least stuck around because she could have left me like my dad did. Painting is really therapeutic to me, so I've been hiding away painting the nursery. At dinner today, my mum asked me why I'd been so quiet, and I told her about my feelings. And she got sad, and my stepdad had to comfort her. I told her that I love her, and was so grateful that she is my mum, and for all that she has done for me. But she was still upset. I feel like the asshole because I knew she would get sad when I told her my feelings, but I told her anyways. I think that hurting someone's feelings on purpose is the worst thing that you can do. But but I know that it's important to be honest, so I'm really conflicted. Can you guys tell me, and if I am being one, I will make my mum and stepdad breakfast in bed to make it up to them and finish the nursery at night to surprise them. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I told my mum the truth about the feelings, and some might think that it makes me the asshole because I did it on purpose, even though I knew that it would make her sad. Now in the comments, honestly, this is probably the nicest thing I've read on this sub. You have a loving family, aside from the stepdad aloofness, but they hurt you and you expressed your feelings. Nobody lost their crap, nobody threw anybody out of the house, nobody invalidated your feelings. You were hurt and your mum was hurt, but everyone just talked about it. At least, so it seems. This is how it's supposed to go. If that's how it went, no assholes here. Not everything is going to be easy in complicated families, and it sounds like everyone is doing their best. Good on you all. And OP replies, "We didn't talk about it, and it has been a few hours, and I'm shaking because I feel mean. And he might love me, but I don't know. He does treat me the same." Not the asshole. Your mother needs to hear this from you. Her words are knives into your soul. She's basically saying that this child is going to get a better version of her than you got. These statements come from a place of insecurity and doubt. She feels that she could have done more for you, and likely feels like a failure in the life that she was able to give you, but that doesn't excuse saying these things out loud where you can hear them, because she is making you feel less. She is the adult here. You should express how you feel, even if it makes her feel bad. She needs to remember that you still need her to do the best with you. She doesn't get to have a do-over with her newest daughter and not continue to do her best for you. If she tries to turn this around on you, ask for family therapy for the two of you. And OP replies, "I don't think she's a failure. She is the best mum, and I've never been hungry or not had a home." Your mum's insecurities aren't because you think that she's a failure. It's because she thinks that she did not provide everything that she could for you. This happens a lot when there's a second marriage and additional kids. The truth is, she will be a different mum to your siblings, not because she loves them more, but because she is in a different place than she was at 18. Let her know that you understand that, but when she says that to you, it hurts you. And now back to the post, we have a series of edits. Edit 1. I went to talk to my mum, but she was sleeping. My stepdad asked to talk to me. He said he never wanted to put this on me, but it was the time. He told me that he loved me and that I am his daughter, no questions asked. He said he didn't want to talk to me about being my dad because he didn't want to bring up bad feelings for me about my real dad. He wants to adopt me, but didn't want to pressure me, and if he did, my bio dad would have to sign away his rights. He was worried that my bio dad would 1. Not put up a fight and that it would hurt me, or 2. Fight, but still not want to see me more and hurt me, so he was avoiding the topic. I said I want him to be my real dad and that I want his last name. He said we will see what we can do, and if it doesn't work, we can try and hyphenate, and I can still use his last name as mine on my jerseys and stuff for soccer, and that as soon as I turned 18, we would change it. He told me he would take care of me forever, and that he is so proud of me, and that I've never been, or never will be, a burden. He said that I don't need to be so nice all the time, and if I'm an evil teenage girl, he would still love me as much as he does now. He also told me that he never wants me to feel pressured to babysit, because even though they're young parents to me, they are still my parents, and it is their job to raise us all. Edit 2, I talked to my mum this morning, and she said that she wasn't mad at me, and just mad at herself. She told me she wishes she could have given me more, and I told her that she gave me more time with her, and that was enough for me. She said she had no idea how to be a mum when I was born, and doesn't know how I turned out to be so good, but she is happy. She told me that I better be selfish today because she wants to go shopping and buy me lots of things. She said I have never been a burden and that I'm the best thing that happened to her. She said I should go to therapy because being a people pleaser is bad. Also, my mum and dad called my bio dad this morning and he agreed to sign away his rights. I got a little sad and cried a lot, and I don't know why, because I wanted him to sign them away, but my mom and stepdad hugged me a lot, and we're going to have a party tonight with both my mom's family and my dad's family. My dad's family, especially my grandma and grandpa, are really excited that I finally am going to have their last name, and grandma has sent me pictures of gold necklaces that she wants to have made for me with my new last name. Our next post is titled, Am I the arsehole for expecting my partner to know how to spell our 2-year-old's name? So my 36 female, partner 38 male, recently started a new job. While filling out insurance information, he texts me to ask her birthday and social security number. So I'm mildly annoyed because our daughter turns 2 in under 2 weeks, and we've been planning her gift/party, etc. This is important info that he should know. The birthday, not SSN. Plus, she's been with us for what is essentially 2 years. I have known he is garbage with remembering dates. We've been together for nearly 7 years and he can't remember my birthday, or any of his family's for that matter. So I grumble, but send him the info. Then, a few minutes later, I get a text asking for my daughter's full name. Now, her name isn't common, but to my knowledge, there aren't any existing spelling variations. We chose her name together months before she was born. I sent him the info and a text asking, "Seriously? You don't know your only child's full name?" To which he replied, "Sure, lose out on thousands of dollars of insurance every month because I didn't double check spelling." I replied, "You should know how to spell her name. She is under 2 weeks away from 2 years old. Why isn't knowing the very crucial information, name and birthday, of our kid not important enough to you to have learned any time in the past 2 years? To which he replied, "Drop it," and is no longer responding to texts. He is not neurodivergent and doesn't have any other medical issue that would make this a problem for him. So am I the arsehole? Edit to add, having the doubts or outright forgetting is grumble-worthy, but overall forgivable. He knew this was happening today, and on top of the minor annoyance of not remembering important info, expected me to stop what I was doing to spoon-feed it to him. This all adds up to small pieces that equal, I'm not considerate enough to memorize the info, to collect the info in case of emergencies, or even to own up to my failed responsibility to do those things. I'm going to be mad at you instead for daring to point it out. Edit 2, I did give him the information he requested and only said anything after having done so. I stated this in my original post, but here we are. Also, my child's name is unusual as a name, not some gibberish or name with multiple spelling variations. Think spoon. Not common as a name, but only one spelling. Daughter's name is not Spoon, by the way. I stated this earlier up, but it's been commented on enough that I wanted to restate this. Now in the comments, I'm gonna say no assholes here. Sometimes in the midst of filling out crucial paperwork, people tend to doubt themselves. So harmlessly double-checking with someone else isn't a bad thing. My husband had to fill out an extremely in-depth form for security clearance for his job. They basically asked how often everyone poops, and he sent me a text asking me his monthly salary for a job he's been working 6 years. He got flustered. I've gotten my own birthday wrong because paperwork gives me anxiety and screws with my head. Not the arsehole. He doesn't bother to learn these things because he just relies on you to tell him. This is another example of the emotional labor that wives and mothers are expected to do. Yes, the cognitive load. It is overwhelming. To be fair, I have an amazing dad. I could not ask for a better father. I am a big, grown adult woman, and there are many things he doesn't remember or know about my life. I realized from a very young age that he just doesn't retain certain things. I don't think it was because he was just lazy and relied on my mum, it just didn't stick. I don't doubt for a moment that he loves me, that he cares for me, that he 100% has my best interests at heart. Certain things just don't click, or it takes a long time for him to remember. I'm not defending OP's significant other, but I realize some people just digest basic info differently. It always seems to be the dads with women partners who do this though. I understand your point, but sexism plays a far greater role in this than your one example. Not the asshole. It is extremely troubling that he doesn't know any of her vital information. I'm guessing you also carry the mental load for managing the household. This will only get worse without immediate intervention. And OP replies to that, "This is my concern too. I do carry all of the mental load of managing our household. I'm a stay-at-home mum, so the lion's share is my responsibility. But if she and I were to get into an accident together, without me being conscious, who is going to give her, or my for that matter, vital information to the hospital?" As someone else mentioned, why not sit down together and address the issue to him instead of this echo chamber? Write down the vital information, names, birthdays, etc. in his phone so he has access to it. Then if it continues to be an issue, cross that bridge if you get there. Perhaps he does have an undiagnosed learning impairment or other ailment that removes some crucial things from his brain. Also, depending on how old he is, did he grow up with a phone or spell check auto-fixing all his errors? Maybe he just sucks at spelling, and something that you only spell once a year can be very difficult to remember, even if it is his child's name. Having worked with children/parents for over a decade, this is a very common thing. Am I the asshole for asking for my money back? So I, 18 female, planned almost a month and a half ago a birthday party for my friend Alia, 18 female, false names. We decided, with 5 of my friends and Alia's friends, to buy a big gift together. I was the one who bought almost everything, including the gift, which was about $140. Now, each one of them is supposed to give me back the money. I trust my 5 friends to give me back the money soon enough, but I don't personally know the sister. 17 female, we are gonna call her Emma. It's also important to know that this money is a big chunk of my spending money. I'm still 18, I don't have a job, and that money is almost everything I have left for my summer and back to school spendings. So I really need the money soon, especially since school is almost done and I won't be seeing them as often. Again, I already said that I'm not worried about my friends, but I don't trust Emma. Honestly, her and her sister are kind of toxic. At least that's how I'm starting to perceive it, and I don't want to get into it with them. I already asked for the money once to Emma, and she just agreed quickly but never got back to me. Then I went to talk to her sister Alia and asked her if Emma had class the next day so she can give back the money. Again, she didn't even come to me. After that, I found out Alia talked to her boyfriend about the whole story, and her boyfriend started mocking me for being persistent. I think I might be the asshole because I'm being very persistent, and maybe I'm not giving Emma a chance to prove herself to me. I already have an image of her in my mind, and I'm getting worried about it more than I should. Plus, Alia's boyfriend has clearly told me that I'm being an asshole by asking again and again for such a small amount of money. Anyways, I don't know if I'm being the annoying one here, and if I should give her more space. The thing is, I really don't trust Emma, and I suspect she would be the kind of person to push it away until I give up. How do I assert myself without being an asshole, and at the same time, getting what is rightfully mine? Now in the comments, not the asshole. You need new friends. Those 2 are fake, and you are not wrong for being persistent. As far as you know, she could be avoiding to pay the debt that she owes you. It's good you are being persistent because it shows that you are not going to allow yourself to be taken advantage of. I know this from experience. I've lent money to someone before and waited a full year for it. Don't make my mistake. And OP replies, "Thank you for your response. The thing is, I now feel regret about planning a whole party for her when she's not even able to hold her sister accountable for a little money." I don't think you should regret planning the party. That is a nice thing that you have done, and not many people would do that. However, I can understand why you would feel regret, and now that I'm reading the story back, $140 is no small amount. That is a decent chunk of change. You told me you didn't involve her, but why is it her responsibility to hold her sister accountable? Is that why you now call her toxic? And OP replies, "No, that's not what I meant. What happened is Alia came to talk to me to defend her sister by saying that the money is nothing and that I'm being annoying. And her being toxic has nothing to do with the story of money, since technically she doesn't owe me anything. Her being toxic has been going on for very long, but I never noticed it, and now I'm fed up. Again, nothing to do with the issue with Emma. Not the asshole. 1. You were the one who spent most of it on the other things, and you need it back soon. Irrespective of that it's your money, the only exception for this point could be if the sister had some real urgent financial issues, which doesn't seem to be the case. 2. If I'm not wrong, you've only asked the sister twice according to your post, so that's not really being unnecessarily persistent. 3. It seems the image you had about her was pretty accurate. Also, do not get bothered by what her boyfriend has to say. It doesn't really matter. Info? Just to put things into more perspective, when was the party? How many days have passed between then and now? And PS, if you reminded her once and then waited for her to return it the day after, you were not being persistent. You were being reasonable in my opinion. And OP replies, the party was on March 30th. I live in France, so just after that we were on lockdown for 2 weeks and didn't have class for a month. But now it's been 3 weeks since we went back to school and she's able to see me. Plus, it wasn't just the boyfriend who said something to me. Even Alia said that that money wasn't going to change a lot in my situation. And no, she doesn't have any financial issues. At the time that I'm writing this message, they are both out shopping. Yeah, no. That amount of time is not justifiable at all. You are not being unnecessarily persistent. I don't know, maybe next time you plan something for someone, pull in the money before. Or don't be the one doing all the work. Just pay your half and let others do it, because even if there's one person like the sister, it creates unnecessary issues. As for Alia, explain your situation to her and agree to disagree with her if she doesn't see your point. And now onto the update. First of all, I would like to thank you all for the responses and for your help. I followed the advice of one of you who told me to wait until it was officially 2 months since the birthday and then ask her again for the money. So I asked her again for the money by text, and Emma was being extremely rude as soon as the conversation started. I managed to stay calm and only ask for the money, even when she was mocking and insulting me. During that conversation, I received a text message from Alia telling me I was being pathetic asking again and again. That led to another conversation with her insulting me and calling me a B-word. Anyways, I'm proud of myself because I managed to stay totally calm and never sank to their level of pettiness. After that, the two girls didn't give me the money until the last week of school. The reason why it took so long was because they were collecting enough cents to pay me back the full amount only in cents of 1, 2, and 5 cents or $1. My friends told me that through social media, Alia was making a whole spectacle of her brilliant idea and was mocking me. Anyways, I took the money and made sure not to react to her pettiness, because all she was looking for was making me angry. I converted the cents to usable money, all my friends cut her off, so she basically only has her boyfriend and sister now. I'm so glad this whole story is done now and I graduated, so I won't have to see her again. I learned my lesson concerning money and fake friends. Once again, thank you for the encouragements and all the help. Now in the comments, some advice I've learned: don't ever lend money to anyone. True, never lend money that you can't afford to lose, or to friends if you value that friendship. And OP replies, you are both right, but I guess in this case it was for the best since I lost a friendship that was toxic anyways. Also, don't misunderstand the meaning behind that sage advice and become some miserly curmudgeon. It doesn't mean don't lend your friends a couple bucks if they're short for dinner or can't afford to join you at the movies. It means don't lend them that money. Pay for it out of the goodness of your heart and the friendship, and if they return the favor or pay you back in the future, then that's gravy. You're a kind person, OP. I probably would have said something. I'm sorry for being so persistent. If I had known you were truly struggling so hard for these small amounts of money, I would have let it go. And OP replies, "Believe me, I had a lot of very interesting things to tell her in my mind, but I didn't want to give her what she wanted. Throughout the whole story, I know very well that all she wanted was to get a reaction. My friends said their fair share of remarks to her though, so there's that." How does she feel about not having any friends now? Honestly, I don't know. I really cut her off and haven't heard of her since she gave the money back. She deserves it anyway, plus I didn't even have to ask my friends to pick sides, which makes me so relieved because it would have been so problematic and stressful. Would I be the asshole for calling out a teacher who made my daughter sit in timeout in the hallway? I, 40 female, have a daughter, 7 female, in the 1st grade. I got a call yesterday that I needed to drop off pants for my daughter because she urinated in her pants at school. I asked what happened, and they said that my daughter told a staff member, not her teacher, that she had an accident. I found this strange. Why wasn't it her teacher? Well, turns out my daughter had been copying another student's work and was put in timeout for the rest of the class in the hallway. I'm thinking, my daughter is 7 years old, and kinda pieced together what happened. She told me she was trying to hold it in while she was in timeout in the hallway, but she couldn't. I understand cheating isn't a good habit, but my daughter is pretty young. So this teacher shamed my daughter in front of the other kids, made her sit outside the classroom for who knows how long, and couldn't ask to go to the restroom, and soiled herself. I'm pretty upset, but everyone thinks that I'm just making a huge deal out of nothing. Will I be a huge Karen if I speak up? I can't tell if I'm overreacting. Now in the comments, you're the arsehole if you call her out. Calling someone out implies going in all mama bear without having heard from everyone. Not the arsehole if you approach the teacher calmly and say, "Clearly something broke down. My 7-year-old was too afraid to move and peed her pants. Please tell me what happened. Then let's discuss how to avoid this from happening again." Keep in mind, when people, especially kids, are stressed, they often need to pee or poop suddenly. Getting in trouble at school is very stressful to kids. It is entirely possible your child was in the hallway only a few minutes, which under other circumstances was more than a reasonable amount. After talking about the hallway, talk about what happened with the cheating. Again, she's 7, it's possible she didn't think this was wrong. She was asking a classmate for help, and he or she just showed his work. But it's also possible that she was full-on cheating. You need to know how to address that too. If the teacher blows you off, go to the principal. And OP replies, "I was really upset when I posted this, but I'm not going to cuss anyone out, yell, etc. What I mean is be assertive and say, this was seriously not okay." Well, the principal actually just reached out to me after talking to the school janitor. He is really concerned. Yeah, of course he has. He's worried about a lawsuit or media attention. Don't settle for anything less than an apology to your daughter and you from the teacher. And I swear it better be sincere. And OP replies, "Luckily the principal at my kid's school is fantastic. So much better than what I had when I was in school. Anyway, we went to high school together, so I know him. He is changing her class, he is asking if there was any bullying after the incident, in which, according to my daughter, hasn't been an issue. But I'm gonna look out for signs." I'm so thankful he's changing her class. He is doing the right thing. Not the arsehole. You need to find out how long she was there before you go all guns blazing. Was it 10 minutes or 2 hours? Your daughter was in the wrong, and a small punishment would be normal. However, if it was so long that she couldn't hold it in, I'd be absolutely livid. There is a possibility that your daughter may have wet herself on purpose to get out of trouble. However, defending your child from what at first seems to be neglect would always land you on the right side of things. And OP replies, "It could have been up to 30 minutes. That's how long the classes are." No matter what the time is, she is 7 and locked out of class alone. Anything could have happened. She could have wandered out of school. This isn't middle school or high school. Not the arsehole. She obviously should be punished for cheating in her class. You obviously have the right to be upset that your child was left to soil herself. The issue I have here is your child was left where she couldn't be supervised. Yes, while in trouble, most children won't speak up, so y'all crying about, but she didn't ask, need to take several seats until you have the basic understanding of how children work. And damn sure won't leave time out to come ask if you're not in the immediate vicinity, and will instead wait until they can't anymore and then silently raise their hand. Time out should not be out of sight of a teacher to minimize accidents and shenanigans. And now back to the post, we have the update. The principal called me, and the staff member has confirmed that she was indeed outside unsupervised with the door closed. I've gotten details that the door was also locked. I'm pretty upset, and the staff member was a janitor, and she has given more details. After my daughter asked for help, she escorted my daughter to the principal. She said my daughter told her that she'd been outside for a long time, but we can't confirm this. It'll be the teacher's word against my daughter's. The principal has apologized profusely and is going to have a serious discussion with the teacher. Am I the asshole for expecting my parents to buy me new shoes? I am 14 female in an upper middle class home. My family recently booked a trip to Disney World/Universal Studios for me and my little sister's birthday coming up in July because we both made straight A's. They did shell out a lot of money, but not enough to break the bank. I planned the trip and found a lot of great deals and loopholes for us to save money. Since we are going, I need some new walking shoes as Disney is huge, and I don't really have any good for that. Now, I'm not saying that I need new shoes, but the closest thing I have to good walking shoes is my Vans. Today, I asked my dad if we could go shoe shopping for the trip. He asked if I had enough money, and I was confused and asked why he wouldn't pay. He said that I had plenty enough to pay for them myself. For context, my godfather sends me $100 a month for good grades, but he doesn't send it during the summer. Now, this money isn't for me to keep and save. He really wouldn't even send it if I didn't spend it, so I don't have a lot of bank funds at my disposal besides my saving account, but I don't touch that. I was kind of upset that he expected me to pay because this morning, he also expected me to pay for me and my little sister's breakfast, and he probably would have told me to if I'd had my card on me. I told him I didn't want to go shopping anymore, and he said it's because I wouldn't be spending any of his money, which, I guess is true. I told my grandma about it, and she said that it's unreasonable that a 14-year-old pay for her own shoes. But my mum disagrees, and says my dad is right. Am I the arsehole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I think I may be the arsehole because my parents are spending a lot on this trip, and I may just be acting spoiled. I also don't really need to have good walking shoes for it, so maybe I was being unreasonable by asking them to spend more money on me after they just booked this really expensive trip. I also do have a lot of shoes, about 20 pairs of inexpensive ones. It's just none of them are athletic or good to walk in, and none have good support. Maybe I should start investing in getting better shoes though. Now in the comments, not the arsehole. It is unreasonable for a 14-year-old to pay for her own shoes. But OP said they had 20 pairs of shoes. Absolutely it's reasonable that they should be expected to pay for the 21st pair. Yeah, but none of them are decent walking shoes. It isn't her responsibility to pay for the things that she needs. It is reasonable for OP to want shoes she can walk in for miles. Plenty of people wear flip-flops to Disney World. She mentioned she has sneakers. She doesn't need running shoes for a day at Disney. Also, she clearly admitted she didn't actually need them. And she also admitted none of her shoes are good for walking. She goes back and forth a lot. I'm really surprised by some comments. I think you were trying to think ahead by requesting sensible shoes for a Disneyland trip, OP. Which, by the way, you definitely do want a decent pair of walking shoes with arch support, with laces, and a proper sole. I went there at your age and had horrible foot pain from being an idiot and wearing the wrong footwear. You were 14. You were still learning about how the world works and how budgeting works. By the way, good job planning the trip. It seems like this was a miscommunication between you and your dad. Other commentators gave great ideas for maybe working with him on getting you some decent footwear. No assholes here. And OP replies, "Thank you. I'll talk with him and explain more about what I meant. You were probably right, and he may have assumed that I wanted expensive shoes, as our conversation was quite short." And now back to the post, there are some edits. Edit. I'm getting a lot of posts about the amount of shoes I have, and I see a lot of your guys' points. Most of my shoes cost about $15 from Ross or Target. They aren't expensive shoes for the most part. I feel like I should clarify my situation also. This isn't about budgeting, as my parents would have mentioned that or told me when I asked. Second off, I don't live with my parents. I live with my grandma. My parents don't buy me things and I rarely see them. My grandma buys a majority of the things for me, which is why I valued her opinion over my parents. I understand how expensive Disney is, and I hear a lot of your criticisms, but they don't really have kids. My grandma has kids. This trip is honestly the only family thing we've done in years, and I'm sorry for being spoiled since it is a lot of money. But I'm not spoiled by my parents. I didn't think this information was too necessary, but I thought that I should clarify. And now on to the update. So I took a commenter's advice and talked to my dad about how I was sorry about the way I reacted, and I still wanted to go shopping with him. I explained what I wanted to get, and his demeanor changed immediately, and it was all a big misunderstanding. A few weeks ago, I told him I was looking at a pair of Jordans, and he assumed I was talking about those, which is why he didn't really want to buy them. I explained that I wanted to buy walking shoes, and he was totally fine with it, and we are going to hang out today too. It's been so long, like 3 months, since we've had a daddy-daughter day, and I am so excited. We are going to eat at his new restaurant and then go to the mall together. Thank you so much for all of your comments. You've helped me so much. Thanks again. And edit, we had a great time. I ended up getting 2 pairs of shoes, one of Skechers and one Nike, since the 2 were on sale at the outlet that we went to. I had a great day and spent some fun time with my dad. We went to get juice from this stand at the mall, we got Chipotle, and we picked out something for my little sister too, and got her some birthday gifts. We got her an American Girl doll, a science kit, some clothes, and a little closet for her doll. She had a great birthday, and I was glad I got to pick these things out with my dad. He had a good Father's Day too, and we got him some new headphones and this fancy workout thing that he wanted. Thank you guys for the awards and sweet comments. Now in the comments, make sure you wear them a little ahead of Disney to break them in. Even trainers need a little wearing in. This. I'm a Floridian who grew up on very low income, but every once in a while, we'd get a treat to go to Disney. Resident ticket prices are much better, especially for kids. Each year for school, I'd get a new pair of tennis shoes, but usually these super cheap ones that'll only last till I grow out of them. But for a Disney trip, all our parents would budget so that we could buy some seriously good and supportive tennis shoes so we wouldn't be crying the whole time that our feet hurt. Usually at an outlet mall or the clearance rack, but still a high quality shoe that would help walking for miles in a few days. It seems like an oversight that a lot of people make in planning a trip to a theme park. People in flip-flops there are just dumb. I'm very glad your dad came around and understood your concern for comfort and longevity. Congrats, and I hope y'all have a great time. Am I the asshole for being a stay-at-home parent and going back to school? My wife has an incredible work ethic. Neither of us is college educated, but managed to be professionally successful the majority of our adult lives. My wife has worked since she was 15 and really defines herself by the work she accomplishes. She worked right up until she gave birth, even though she really didn't need to. We had been planning for her being at home, and my job had amazing insurance, so the hospital bills were manageable. After our daughter was born, my wife went back to work after about 2.5 months. She was going crazy being at home with the baby all the time. I was working from home full time. My job was very demanding and I had a lot of clients. I was unavailable from 8 until 6 every day. This was hard for my wife. I was technically home, but really needed to focus on my job, so wasn't much help. I instead took on dinners and laundry and cleaning, and whenever the kiddo woke up at night, I was the one that got up to let my wife sleep. We were both incredibly sleep deprived. That's just how it goes with newborns. When my wife went back to work, we couldn't afford childcare, and my wife essentially said, "You are home, you're on deck." I went from working 50 hours a week to working 50 hours a week while taking care of my daughter full time. My work suffered, my relationship with my clients suffered, my marriage suffered, and I was still getting up at nights because my wife would just sleep through our daughter crying. The company I worked for was sold a year later. I found work here and there that let me be home with our baby during the day, but I knew I couldn't work full-time from home again and take care of the baby. My wife suggested I stay home. She got a new job with insurance for her and our daughter, but my insurance went away. I was stuck. My wife wasn't going to change her job plans and made it clear that she wasn't up to being a stay-at-home parent. We couldn't afford childcare, couldn't afford insurance for me, couldn't let me find work that would help pay for that stuff. It's been about a year, and other than the occasional seasonal gig, I've been the stay-at-home parent. My wife constantly uses this against me when I ask her for things. Saying things like, "You don't bring in any money. You don't understand the stress of being the sole provider." This really hurts. She didn't really give me a choice here, but makes me feel awful for being home and won't combine our finances so I can help budget. I'm going back to school in September. I arranged everything to make it possible, but my wife has been telling me what a terrible idea it is. My parents are paying for it and providing childcare 2 days a week. My father has a degenerative disease and won't be able to babysit in a few years. I'll also be able to get some health insurance. Other than asking my wife to watch our daughter 2 weekdays instead of 1, I've made sure she won't have to do anything else. She's literally just moving one of her days off, but she's making me feel horribly selfish. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. But your wife kind of sounds like she is. Right? I feel the same way about this as all the poor women left in this position. She doesn't value his labor at all. And OP replies, "I kind of understand though. I don't really produce anything that she can see, you know? I work hard focusing on the kiddo during the day and then clean the place up after dinner when the kiddo goes to bed, so my wife usually leaves in the morning when the house is clean and then comes home to a bit of a disaster every evening. Arts and crafts, cardboard forts, rice from the rice table. After work, I think she just sees a mess. I've tried to be really understanding about that. She's really a clean as you go, but our toddler lives from one thing to the next pretty fast, so we sort of destroy everything, then I clean late when I have a bit more time. Yeah, except she's putting you down. Like, look at some of the posts from stay-at-home moms. You quit your job to be full-time childcare. The least she can do is appreciate the work that childcare is. I don't have kids for precisely this reason. It's a lot of work and it never stops. The fact that she holds it over your head is not okay. You basically said she doesn't think that you do any work. I'd love to have a stay-at-home dad and be able to afford to do that. I'd be so grateful and appreciative that someone is willing to take on so much childcare. I'd also love to be able to afford to be a stay-at-home mum myself, but I would not tolerate my partner acting like what I do isn't work, and that my childcare is not a contribution to the household. Not the asshole. You both have a right to make decisions based on your own needs as well as the kids, and if full-time stay-at-home isn't working for you, your wife has no business treating you like an indentured servant. There was another post today where the husband was trying to volunteer his wife into homeschooling the kid when she fervently did not want to. That wasn't okay either. I suggest marriage counseling so you and your wife can relearn the fact that marriage is an equal partnership, regardless of who brings in the most money, and everyone's mental health needs should be considered and accommodated reasonably. And OP replies, "Counseling does sound like a good idea, but she's adamant that we can't afford it, and I can't argue otherwise. The one time we went, she didn't like it very much. My jobs have required me to be a very clear communicator, but my wife didn't find it easy to be relaxed enough to share personal stuff with a stranger right away, and then we just didn't go back. Abusers rarely like counseling. OP replies, I guess I don't really see her behavior as malicious though, just really fear-based if that makes sense. Look, it doesn't matter what abuse is based on, it is still abuse. And OP replies to that, I thought it was my job to love her and be understanding no matter what, but I realize I've been sacrificing my own happiness to accomplish that. I'm not okay with that. Info. Do you have any access to bank statements? I'm getting an incredibly hinky feeling from her regarding money. Can't afford insurance for you, can't afford daycare, can't afford therapy, even though insurance should cover this, and you have to ask to buy things. This is sounding more like financial abuse than anything else. And OP replies, I don't see her bank account information. I do occasionally see her paychecks, but that's rare, and I know on top of her salary, she gets tips. But I don't know how much that is per month. I know her insurance is covered, she pays for our daughter though. It sounds like she is very much deliberately choosing to exclude you from insurance. And back to the post, we have an edit. I never really thought of my wife's behavior as abusive, but that seems to be the general consensus so far. I never even considered that financial abuse might be a thing. I'm not sure what to do. Right now I'm leaning towards trying to make my wife aware of what she's doing and how it is affecting me. Reading your comments has been a little therapeutic. A lot of this stuff feels like I've known in my head, but have really been afraid to acknowledge. If my wife refuses to address these issues with me, I'm genuinely afraid of what that means for my family. Thank you to everyone who has responded up to now. I've been doing a lot of uncomfortable reflecting, and have more to do, I'm sure, but this was helpful. And now on to the update. A lot of people in my previous post brought up financial abuse, which is not a concept I was familiar with. It was incredibly difficult for me to accept that my wife was being manipulative and controlling in that way. I had this notion in my head that any kind of abuse had to be intentionally malicious, and that being kind and accepting and loving meant taking the good with the bad, and not judging when someone is unkind to me. In the case of my wife, I really thought that since I understood where her behavior was coming from, how she grew up, that I had to learn to deal with how she acted towards me. It was my problem to solve. I went back to school despite my wife's disapproval, and also found a job that has given me a scholarship for school. I'm going into engineering. I never thought that I'd love math this much, but I really, really do. Thought getting a job and having tuition covers might stop my wife from being upset about school, but oh boy, I was wrong. My wife is still not supportive. I just finished up my first year of classes literally yesterday with a 4.0 baby, and I'm on cloud 9. The entire year, all I've heard from her is how little I help around the house, that my job should pay me more, that she can't be expected to do everything, that it's going to take too long to get my degree. Endless. I will always love my wife, but I've realized we are not good together. With the help of my therapist, I've been learning to say what I want and to set reasonable boundaries and expectations, especially with money. I want to be able to co-parent our daughter together, but I'm also very aware that my wife isn't likely to split with me amicably. It's a tough position to be in for me. All in all, my life is on a positive path. I'm grateful for the insight everyone here provided. I'm sad about my marriage, but since I made the decision to separate, I have felt so much relief. I'm working to not feel guilty about that. I was raised to believe that divorce meant failure. Sometimes relationships just don't work out. Trying to keep something going when it's just over, surefire way to be unhappy. I'm glad I've got the perspective to see that now. I don't want to make it sound like I'm perfect and my wife is this raging bee. The first few years of our marriage, I was battling undiagnosed bipolar disorder and was a miserable crap. I'm stable, medicated, in therapy, and really enjoying my life right now. That was another one of the reasons I put up with a lot of the negative treatment. I felt like I deserved it. Anyway, love being a student, love my job, love my kiddo. Thanks again. And edit, just a few things I'd like to add. 1. Thank you again for all the love, the positivity and encouragement I've received here is incredible. I've had to make a lot of hard choices and haven't heard much in the way of good job. I needed that. 2. A lot of people have expressed their concerns over potential custody battles. My brother is a lawyer and got me in touch with someone who understood family law, so I've been preparing for any legal fights. I'm still hopeful my wife and I can figure out a plan that works for all three of us, but for my daughter's sake, I need to cover my bases. 3. My wife is not the devil. She has issues that she's refused to address, and that's made our marriage hard on us both. As someone in the comments said, you have to deal with your own issues before you can help anyone else. My wife is overwhelmed by her issues and does what she feels will make her safe, and while I understand it, it is not my problem to solve. Couldn't solve it for her if I tried, and I have tried. 4. To the people who said we should have never had a child together, you were probably right, but I'll never regret that my daughter came into the world. Best person ever, hands down. And 5. If you or someone you love is struggling with mental health issues, don't wait. Address it now. Do whatever it takes to find the help you need. It will only get harder to deal with if you wait. Now in the comments, that's fantastic. It may get more difficult when you tell her you want to split, so document everything on the division of childcare from the time of your child's birth through the current period. Best of luck to you. Congratulations on finding your passion in math, even though it's many people's worst enemy. The best updates are when OPs are willing to learn and better themselves, as well as live their lives no matter if they were assholes or not. Jokes aside, sometimes it's hard to see red flags. This is why I've always preferred a blunt approach when it comes to things that can cause mental and physical stress. Best wishes. And I just read your OP. You made the only decision available to you since your wife was so adamantly opposed to any compromise. Congrats on a new beginning. This story spoke volumes, and it's about control. If she had just supported him, they would both be sharing the fruits of his labor, and everyone would be living a life a little easier. But control was the goal. And the whining about not doing home duties so she can come home to the Stepford life, but not being prepared to do them either, wasn't a great move. She wanted control, and getting educated is something that those who want control really don't like, because they know what's coming, and it did. She wasn't opposed to his career change, she was opposed to him attaining any autonomy. Power to him, and I hope he goes far. Unexposed is titled, Am I the Arsehole for not giving two group mates access to a work document? I have a group project in which my group has 4 members, including myself. To make things easier, I will name them A, B, C, and myself. We have a research proposal, and the video is due in 3 weeks' time, and an interim submission for both of those things due today-night. Group members A and B have consistently not turned up for class, which is where most of the group discussions take place. Group members C and I have been doing all of the research work this far, since the groups were formed 1.5 months ago, mid-April. C and I have tried setting up online meetings for our group to work together and get things done, but A and B either don't reply at all, or reply very last minute. This has resulted in A not attending any meetings, and B has only attended 1 meeting. We have also outright told them that they need to help out because the workload is heavy, and C and I can't finish everything ourselves. In the 1 meeting that B attended, she left halfway saying that she had a call to attend to and was absent for half the meeting. C and I have been very frustrated and have tried talking to our lecturer about it, but there isn't much that can be done as he can't reshuffle the groups nor split our group up at this point. As the interim submission is due tonight, we have to submit the research proposal and a script for video production, and A and B were still not responding to messages, nor added anything to the shared research document. C and I decided to just do everything ourselves in a separate document. Here is where I feel like I might be the arsehole. The interim submission is individual, so to say everyone submits their own version of whatever the group has done as a whole. So A, B, C, and I will have the same content submission. However, since C and I did not invite them to the new document, in which we did all our additional research in, they do not have access to any of the research content we did, and will have nothing to submit. Additionally, I know that A has some personal issues that she's going through, and is also not doing well in school, which is why I feel bad that A will not have anything to submit. Am I the arsehole? Now in the comments, not the arsehole. Do not let anyone take credit for your work. Regardless of their home situation, you are not responsible for that. Info. By content submission, do you mean video? Did A and B help with the content submission, and is that why you gave them access to it? But they do not have access to the research proposal they did not contribute to, correct? And OP replies, by content submission, I mean the video script for the research proposal we did. At this stage, we need to submit 1 research proposal and 2 video script. They do not have access to either of those, as C and I added new research and content in a separate document. A and B did not contribute anything at all, even in the original research document that all group members had access to. Not the arsehole. Honestly, wouldn't be the arsehole in my opinion if you deleted what's on the shared document too. You had provided your part on the unspoken premise that they do their fair share, and they haven't even attempted to pull their weight. Why should they benefit when they've so thoroughly screwed you? When submitting your assignment, if possible, maybe write a note to Professor explaining what happened, and hopefully Professor can either let you drop them or resolve it some other way. And OP replies, C and I are planning to do that to update the lecturer that only the 2 of us have been doing work thus far. Thank you for the advice. And now on to the update. Hi. I thought I would make an update after the lecturer replied and met up with me and groupmate C. So some bad news and some slightly better news. Groupmate A dropped out of school as she felt she couldn't cope with the workload and the stress at home made everything worse. It meant we were down to 3 group members, and B was honestly absent for everything and wasn't contributing. Our lecturer contacted C and I, and he told us that he would be speaking to B privately without disclosing that we brought up this issue to him, as B had not handed in anything for the interim submission. The lecturer also said that he would be transferring a member of another group that had 5 members to our team to make up for A who dropped out. Personally, I feel really bad for that person as they have to change group members and the entire project idea. But there's nothing else to be done as the lecturer already decided. C and I also emailed our lecturer with proof, or lack of, for B's contribution, as he might need to use it if the situation escalates. So yeah, that's all for the update. Thank you to all the kind people who responded with suggestions to the situation. Now in the comments, this is why I hated group projects. At least your professor is actually acknowledging it instead of just telling you to figure it out. And OP replies, yeah, my class lucked out with this lecturer. The rest of our lecturers seem to be pretty apathetic. Speaking as an employer who has very frequently hired people right out of university, remember this experience. When you're asked an interview question about overcoming an obstacle or working in a team, here is your example. Don't use it as an opportunity to badmouth B, but do talk about how you and C strategized to take on more work than you had expected to. Also talk about how you helped the new person adapt to being added to the project. This situation might suck now, but it really can be used to your advantage when you're looking for your first full-time job. Not the arsehole. Social loafing? When you write up your project, look into this. It's not uncommon for other group members to slide, allowing others to do their share of the work. Happens in workplaces too, by the way. And in families. Good reference. And OP replies, I've heard of a couple of horror stories from older relatives about such people, unfortunately. B honestly takes the cake as one of the worst people I've worked with for a project too. I don't know whether this is prevalent in the field you're studying to enter, but it definitely is prevalent in many corporate settings. I have been in the position of working jointly with a team, and no boss wants to hear that A isn't doing any work or B is taking things over. If it makes you feel any better, you probably are learning valuable tactics for dealing with the uncooperative personalities. In fact, before writing this response, I drifted off into thought about how interesting it would be to craft a project in which the students would actually be assessed on how they dealt with interpersonal strife. I haven't come up with a good method yet, one that doesn't require actors, so that the roles occur fairly. It's definitely an interesting thing to ponder. And good luck with the rest of your project, and I hope your new person merges into the group successfully. Am I the asshole for not wanting to loan out my things to my stepkids without question or comment? I, female 31, married my husband, male 48, a year ago. He has 3 kids from a previous marriage, ages 13 to 17. They are great kids. We overall have a fun, healthy relationship. The kid's biological mother is in the picture, so I'm more of the fun auntie type person. My husband is not a materialistic guy. He isn't into buying new cars or higher-end fashion. I do like driving a nice car, and I like fancy clothes. I work from home and spend on decorating, so I'm happy in the space that I spend the most time in. We share most finances, so there's a reasonable fiscal argument to be made for what's mine is yours. But recently, I've pushed back on a habit my husband has that's increased in frequency. He will loan things of mine out to my stepkids that I'm not necessarily comfortable with handing over. An example would be a theme day my SD had at school. Dear husband gave her an expensive pair of my sunglasses, a leather jacket, and higher-end boots to dress up in. I didn't realize she had them until they came back from her mum's house the next week. The sunglasses were scratched, and the boots were absolutely filthy. Dear husband shrugged it off as the kids will be kids. I asked that I be asked before things are taken out of my closet, and dear husband suggested that I not create boundaries that make the kids feel like they aren't part of the family. The incident that prompted this post is in regard to my vehicle. I bought what would be considered a luxury SUV this past year, and yesterday at dinner, our oldest comes in with his friends, and they're all going on about how cool it would be to roll into their summer fling in my vehicle. Prom was cancelled thanks to the pandemic, and the kids are doing a summer substitute party. I pulled my dear husband aside, and he told stepson to take it because it's a fancy, once-in-a-high-school career opportunity to feel adult and show off a little. The car is insured, so what's the big deal? I told him I would have liked to be consulted, and I would also like some time to consider the logic of letting a kid who's had his driver's license barely a year get behind the wheel of a $100,000 plus auto packed with his buddies. I reminded my dear husband that things don't always get returned to me in good condition. He argued that having kids means things will sometimes get ruined. His thought is that I shouldn't spend on things if I'm not okay with them getting worn or damaged. I suggested if he wants to give his kids luxury or designer items, he buy them himself, and he told me that it was silly for him to spend money that way, as it's not his style. Maybe I'm being selfish, but I don't feel like it's fair to tell me nice things aren't worth buying or keeping nice, but then constantly wanting to use said thing precisely because they are nice. Am I the asshole for asking to be consulted before my vehicle was offered to my stepson and reserving the right to veto my husband if I decide that I'm just not comfortable? I don't want to be that stepmom, but this situation also reeks of a certain level of hypocrisy. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I might be the asshole because I'm setting boundaries on my things, and that might be the wrong way to have a blended family. My husband might be right that it's isolating to my stepkids. Now in the comments, not the asshole. When I was a teen, I certainly was not allowed to wear my mum's things. It's normal, and dare I say healthy, to have some boundaries in terms of which things the kids can borrow. You are not refusing to lend them because they are your stepkids, it is because they are kids. It will not make them feel like they're not part of the family if a boundary is set. Your husband sounds like he is overindulging them. And OP replies, I definitely didn't get to borrow everything of my parents either. It was considered a high privilege to be able to take the adult's car or my mum's designer handbag, etc. My husband and his family's point of view is everyone is equal. If everyone is equal, then why are your belongings not being respected? I bet if you just took something out of your stepdaughter's without asking, she would be upset, especially if you returned it damaged. Being a parent is an inherently unequal situation, and that's okay. You give more than you take, but, and this is a big but, you have to be respected by and equal to your partner. The whole thing collapses otherwise. Your partner is lending things that don't belong to him instead of telling the kids to ask you. That is the big problem. It's not about the kids being equal, it's about you and your husband being equals. That is your problem. Not the asshole. Personal property has boundaries. The kids do not freely help themselves to anything of their mums the same way you and your husband allow them free reign of your items. I don't blame the kids. It is entirely on your husband. If he wants to help them to enjoy the finest things, then he can buy them for himself and lend them out. He could just be trying to buy his kids' affection with your things. And OP replies, I really don't know how the kids have it arranged with their mother in regard to her things, so I can't say. I don't know that he's necessarily trying to buy their affection, but I know he likes to be the guy to hook them up. Not the asshole. He is definitely trying to buy their affection. Even worse, he is using your things. I'd suggest you lock your things up, keep your keys always on you, and separate finances to make a point. He needs to respect your boundaries and he isn't. You know how to preserve the nice things that you buy so that the purchase is worth it. Kids don't, which is why you don't lend kids expensive things. Your husband is the asshole here. And now on to the update. After sifting through the near overwhelming number of comments, the most positive advice I received was to address the issue from the standpoint of individual feelings and respect versus focusing on the monetary value of my concerns or on the items themselves. I told my husband that while I appreciate his family's approach to the pooled stuff, when someone leaves me out of the conversation involving my items or things that I care about, I feel the exact opposite. I don't feel included, rather like I've been left out of the inner circle altogether. And I stressed how much open communication means to me. I told my husband I'm not going to ask him to understand my position, but I am going to insist he respect it. At first, he wanted to steer the conversation back towards the actual stuff, and he commented that he never worried about something getting broken or damaged because he knows I can easily replace it out of our pooled finances. I stressed again that it wasn't about the stuff, it wasn't about the cost, it was about laying the responsibility of having to go clean up after someone else at my feet when the situation could be avoided entirely with a few simple parameters and expectations in the first place. I pointed out that I don't put responsibilities on him without asking first, and that's what he was doing to me by being so cavalier with my things. That he got. The light bulb came on. He apologized, and we have a plan moving forward. As for the SUV specifically, husband pulled stepson aside and said that he spoke too soon. He hadn't consulted me about the vehicle first, and after we talked about it more, we both had some decent-sized concerns about him taking it. We ended up hiring one of my husband's friend's sons to chauffeur in my SUV that evening. He'll take the kids to dinner, he'll take them to where they're having their photos done, and then back and forth to the party. Thanks to everyone who commented on the OP. Now in the comments, great solution OP. I remember your original post was just a nightmare. I'm glad you and your hubs got everything sorted out. And OP replies, everything on Reddit always seems worse than it probably actually is though, doesn't it? Nah, this was something you needed to handle. Good thing your husband was receptive, and y'all put together a plan for how to handle things both now and in the future. I'm happy you figured out the best way to approach it as a team. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for not putting my boob away when I answered the door? I'm a single mum with an 18-month-old and a 3-week-old, both on breast milk. The oldest is feeding up to 5 to 6 times a day, and baby is feeding every 2 to 3 hours, sometimes more often. Basically, my boobs are no longer my property, and wearing anything that makes it difficult to pull them out at a moment's notice is not an option. So, no bra and very loose tank tops are my life. To the issue. My toddler has been sick, and so I'm very tired. I was feeding the baby when there was a knock at my door. I'd been expecting my friend over, so I didn't think twice about opening in, boob out, looking a hot mess. Sadly, it was not my friend, and instead my ex-mother and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law gasped and made a whole deal of turning away, whereas her mum looked on displeased. Of course, toddler decides that this is the optimal time to start crying, which disrupts an already upset baby who stops latching, and thus my nipple is on show to the world. I basically leave them in the doorway while I get my boys situated. I try to avoid breastfeeding my toddler in front of them, but he was not having it. So it was essentially just me walking them back out and locking the door so I could feed them both in peace. For some reason they didn't leave, and when my friend showed up, they walked in with her. Friend has a spare key, and I don't know why I thought she was at the door in the first place. I handed baby off because he was done, but realized toddler wouldn't be done for a while, so I succumbed to my fate. Sister-in-law was still looking very uncomfortable, and I was expecting some form of judgment for still feeding my son, which I got. I can always count on the mother-in-law. After she finished, I hoped she would just leave, but then she made a rather appalling comment of, "No wonder your ex left you when you're whoring yourself around like that. Anyone could have been at the door, and you're off swinging your chest about." I, at this point, broke down crying. My friend, who was upstairs putting the baby down, thankfully takes charge of the situation. She gets rid of them, convinces the toddler into his bed, and then we watched movies and ate ice cream until the baby woke up. I sort of hoped that that would be the end of it, but I opened up my phone to an array of messages from my ex, my own parents, and the other sister-in-law. They're essentially shaming me for feeding my baby, saying that anyone could have seen me. Maybe it would have been someone's kid who doesn't need to see that, even going as far as to say I could have distracted drivers and caused a crash. I'm starting to really doubt myself, and so my friend guided me here. She is insisting that I'm not in the wrong, and seems to think you guys will agree. And if you do, I plan on showing the comments to my ex and his family. So am I the asshole for not putting my boob away before answering the door? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I think I'm an asshole because they are correct in saying that I was exposing myself, and as I live in an area with lots of kids, it could have gone very badly with neighbors or something. Now in the comments, not the asshole, and more importantly, your mother-in-law is the asshole. Feeding a baby isn't sexual, and shame on anyone who says that it is. Feed your babies, mama. And OP replies, constantly feeding these babies. I await the day that I can finally wear a normal bra again. Except not really because they're super uncomfortable. You co-parent with your ex. He can manage mother-in-law and sister-in-law's access to the children. You have to co-parent with the father, but the advantage of having them be ex is the in-law's family is his problem. You need to take your power and autonomy back. Treat them as anyone else who shows up uninvited. You tell them to leave because they are not invited. If they do not leave, you give them the consequence of getting trespassed by the police. You might think this is an overreaction, but you do not have to nurture these relationships. Your life will be easier when they know there are consequences to bullying you. Not the asshole. You were feeding babies, not whoring around. Anyone who has a problem with babies eating is more of a perv than you are by miles. And OP replies, I thought that, but I tend to face a lot of shaming whenever I'm feeding my kiddos. It's nice to have so many supportive comments already. I was kinda worried about mentioning my oldest's age. And even if she was whoring around, without the kids present obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. Ex-sister-in-law and ex-mother-in-law showed up unannounced at OP's house and have the audacity to tell her how to behave. and when OP is not even with her ex anymore. The fact that her parents and her ex pile up on it is just astonishing. None of this is okay, OP, and I get the feeling that you're kind of used to being abused by all of them. Some people just feed on drama and shaming others. It's their way of feeling better about their own shitty personalities. Don't pay attention to them. In fact, set, for all of them, a couple of healthy ground rules like not showing up unannounced and not commenting on your behavior, or they get thrown out. And then do it. And when they break those rules and refuse to leave, they will, just call the cops on them and get them thrown out. As for your parents, you tell them if they don't stop shaming you right now, they are gonna lose grandkids access for a while. And then follow up on that too. And finally, about your ex, he can go F himself. You are feeding his kids. The only thing he's allowed to say about it is thank you, and make that very clear to him. And now on to the update. So it's been a little bit of time since my previous post, and I'm just here to say a huge thanks for all the comments. A lot of you guys really helped me realize where I needed help. Shortly after my post was made, I contacted my ex and essentially asked if he wanted to actually play a part with our kids or not. He said he didn't want to. We had a long conversation about our feelings. We're on good terms now, and he's starting a new job in August, so we will deal with everything legally then for easiness sake. I set up my Ring doorbell camera. I did have one in storage, I'd just never gotten around to setting it up, and now I'm much more careful with who I answer the door to. I also contacted my parents one final time to let them know that I'm no longer having contact with them and let them have one photo of my boys. They took it very well considering it all. I did have to take the step to cut my siblings off as well, but as much as I love them, I need to prioritize myself and my babies. I met up with my ex's family to let them know that if they ever set foot in my house again, I would call the police, and told them they won't ever have contact with my children. As far as I and my ex are concerned, they don't have a father and thus have no paternal family. They were upset, but let it go, and I did breastfeed both my kids in the park just to spite them, which felt quite good. In better news, the friend I mentioned in my previous post is moving in with us. Initially, it was for financial reasons, but a little something is sort of happening between us. And even if that fizzles out, I feel safer with a second person. My kids have financial stability and a second parent, which I think all kids deserve. After everything legal is settled, we are planning to move out of state. We were both saving separately for a house, and my ex wound up giving me most of the funds that we'd saved. He is inheriting his father's house and doesn't want for me and the kids to constantly be at risk of eviction. With both sets of savings, in a year or so we should be able to move into a decently sized house. We are already planning on getting a dog. The plan is to be moved and settled by July 2022, so the boys can have the first proper summer in a yard that's big enough to play in. My kids will have a better life than I had, and this is just the start of how perfect it's going to be. So that's it. Thank you all again. Now in the comments, I'm glad everything seemed to work out, and it's nice to see that your ex has your back financially. And OP replies, yeah, I'm really grateful for that. I think he just wants to get on with his life, you know? It honestly is a refreshing sentiment. My dad tried to hide money from my mum. I'm glad to see that not all exes are like that. I only vaguely remember your first post, so I'll have to go back and read it for full context, but I'm impressed by how your ex simultaneously comes across as an asshole, doesn't want to be involved with his kids, and a decent person, giving you the savings to make sure those kids have a stable home. It's quite the contradiction. And OP replies, he was a complete asshole before, don't get me wrong, but our marriage wasn't a good one, and we were both more or less forced at 16. Through some personal conversations, I've realized why he desperately doesn't want to be a father, but on the same stretch wants to support them as he had part in creating them. We came to an agreement that he would pay child support and partially pay for us to move out of state. Only wish that he'd brought all of this to your attention before he helped make 2 whole babies with you. Would have been helpful to know sooner, my dude. And damn, married at 16? I imagine that was quite a story. High-key afraid of the sort of families who would do that. And OP replies, he actually had. When we were 19, I got pregnant and had an abortion because he begged me to do so. The only reason we kept our son is because his mum found my pregnancy test. I had another abortion scheduled. I noticed him getting worse and worse emotionally, and he was staying out later. With baby number 2, he lost his crap. We should have gotten divorced when I got pregnant the very first time, but we were teens scared of our parents. But yeah, I grew up almost cult style. His family was much better, but still not good. My parents married all of the girls off, lol. Oof, that is so sad. Not an excuse for how he treated you at all, but I can certainly see how he'd be thinking and acting like a trapped animal in those circumstances. You were both way too young for all of this. I hope both of you manage to heal and move on and live better lives than the one that your parents forced on you. It sounds like you were both trying your hardest to do so. May his financial support be the first of many efforts to make amends to you and your children for his role in how this played out. And OP replies, yeah, I'm kind of over blaming him. I wasn't exactly an amazing wife. I feel for him and he feels for me. We are going to have minimal contact until the youngest is 18, and then no contact at all. I'm getting help, and I believe I've convinced him to do the same.